Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to be going into Ezekiel, the 6th chapter. And basically in the 5th chapter, the Lord had come to Ezekiel and had him simulate a siege of Jerusalem, and pretty much told him that the things that he was going to do to the Israelites over there for their wickedness, how the Lord was going to bring a famine, and basically cause them to be destroyed by the sword and by famine and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward the mountains of Israel, and prophesy against them. And say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh to the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, Behold, I, even I, will bring a sword upon you, and I will destroy your high places. Now, when you look into the word high places in the Hebrew, the word there is bama, and it translates to height, like a high place, the top of a mountain, the top of a hill, that kind of thing. But as you see in one of the definitions here, it says technical name for cultic platform, i.e. high places were typically known to be places where different people would basically go up there to worship. So they would set up altars upon high places. They would do certain offer sacrifices upon high places, and so on and so forth. Now I looked up high place, looked it up in a few, like the Britannica dictionary, and also in the Easton's Bible dictionary, and let's read a little bit of what it says here. So it says, after the Israelites entered the promised land, they were strictly enjoined to overthrow the high places of the Canaanites. So the high places of the Canaanites would be the places of worship, because that's, once again, where they would go to worship their different gods and their idols. And they were forbidden to worship the Lord on high places. Now this is the word high place from Britannica. Israelite or Canaanite open-air shrine, usually erected on an elevated site. Prior to the conquest of Canaan by the Israelites in the 12th to 11th century BC, the high places served as shrines of the Canaanite fertility deities, the Baals, which are translates to lords, and the Asherah, or Semitic goddess. In addition to an altar, stone pillars representing the presence of the divine, and upright wooden poles symbolizing the female deities, often were erected on the high places, which sometimes were located under a tree or a grove of trees. So when you hear a grove, when they mention a grove is basically like a bunch of trees together, okay? And they would worship under that. So here, if you type in like grove of trees, you'll see something like this, all right, where you see a bunch of different trees, right? A bunch of different trees, and they would basically find a nice spot in between there, and then they would do their sacrifice or their worship and so on and so forth. All right. So continuing, where are we? Right. Other accoutrements sometimes, let's see what they have here for this. Okay, an item of clothing or equipment. Okay. Sometimes associated with the Bama, which is the high place, were small incense altars. The high place at Megiddo in Israel is one of the oldest known high places, dating from about 200 or 2500 BC. But the Israelites had associated the divine presence with elevated places. Example, Mount Sinai. They used Canaanite high places to worship their own God. The name is not Yahweh in the Hebrew, it's Yahweh. Canaanite agricultural fertility rites and practices were adopted by the previously nomadic Israelites, often in a syncretic fashion with, I guess it should say Yahweh. Well, not I guess, but it should say Yahweh. But anyway, it says Yahweh, replacing Baal. A strong reaction to the adoption of such rites led to protests by Israelite judges and prophets from the 12th to the late 7th century BC. And so on and so forth. So this is just a little bit of information about the high places. When you hear about the high places, this is the significance behind it. It's typically a place where these nations would go up to worship or serve their gods. So verse 4, and your altars. So the Lord is telling Ezekiel here to prophesy against Israel and to tell them this is what he's going to do. He's going to break down their high places. He's going to break down, their idols and all of that. Verse 4, your altars shall be desolate, and your images, which when you see the word images, it's talking about their idols. And your images shall be broken, and I will cast down your slain men before your idols. And they will lay the dead carcasses, and I will lay the dead carcasses of the children of Israel before their idols, and I will scatter your bones round about your altars. In all your dwelling places, the cities shall be laid waste. And this was going to happen. The Lord was going to do this by the hand of the Babylonians. So when they came in, and they finally broke through, they killed people, right? They slew people, they killed people, and so on and so forth. And something that was very common in Israel were people worshiping in these high places and worshiping these idols and so on. So the Lord got very infuriated at that and said, look, you tell them, you prophesy against them as to what I'm going to do, because I'm pissed off right now. Verse 6, in all your dwelling places, the cities shall be laid waste, and the high places shall be desolate, that your altars may be laid waste and made desolate, and your idols may be broken and cease, and your images may be cut down, and your works may be abolished. And the slain shall fall in the midst of you, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. So the Lord is he said, I'm gonna come in there, I'm gonna have them destroy all your idols, kill you, portions of you, break down those idols. Okay, so you can know that I'm doing this. Verse 8, yet will I leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, where ye shall be scattered through the countries. And that's what the Lord did, right? He didn't completely annihilate this other kingdom. There were certain Israelites that were able to flee to neighboring nations. There were also certain Israelites that were left. The Babylonians didn't take everybody, all right? They left a few in there. And you had some that fled into Egypt, some into Ammon, some into Moab. And here's an account in 2 Kings 25 and 11. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. This is not Nebuchadnezzar. It's not just another pronunciation or way of saying Nebuchadnezzar. This is a different person. Verse 12, but the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen. So you had some people that were left in the land. A prime example is Habakkuk, however you want to pronounce it. He, when you read in, I believe it's the book of Bel and the Dragon, he was actually in the land, in Jewry, in Jerusalem. And that's where the angel came to him as he made food to take to the reapers. The angel came to him and said, you got to go and feed Daniel, because Daniel's over there in Babylon. He said, Babylon, I ain't never been to Babylon before. Next thing he knows, he's been teleported over there. He's like, oh, Daniel, here's your food. Okay, you go ahead and you do that. Now, of course, that at that time of Habakkuk, it wasn't at the same exact time as this happening. This happened prior to that. Because the time of Habakkuk, this was when Daniel was cast into the lion's den again. But this time, I believe it was because he had destroyed one of the idols. Okay, during when after Darius the Mede was dead and Cyrus was ruling, Daniel used wisdom to basically destroy one of the Babylonian idols. They got mad and they said throw him in the lion's den. And that's when the Lord had Habakkuk bring food to him. So there are actually two different accounts of Daniel being thrown into the lion's den. And the Lord preserved them in both times. Okay, so let's go back now to Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 8. So the Lord says, I'm still going to leave a remnant, which is mercy. Verse 9, and they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations whither they shall be carried captives, because I am broken with their whorish heart, which hath departed from me, and with their eyes, which go a whoring after their idols, and they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. So the Lord is basically saying, I'm still going to leave a remnant. And there's going to be some of you that manage to survive, and you're going to remember me when you're as captives in the land of your captivity. And as it says here, because I am broken. You know, like when you look up the other translations, it says synonyms: broken, crushed, hurt by their whorish heart, meaning the heart meaning their mind. The whorish mind, in this case, the mind of Israelites wanting to go and serve other gods. It's likened onto spiritual fornication. It's likened onto a woman cheating on you. But in this case, the woman would be the nation of Israel, and the man would be the Most High. And when you worship another god, it's likened onto you committing adultery against the Most High. So as he says, yeah, I'm doing all this. I'm still gonna have mercy, but I want you to realize how much you hurt me by this idolatrous behavior, which have departed from me. So the mind of these Israelites have departed from the Lord. They forgot about the Lord. They forsook the Lord. And with their eyes, which go a whoring after their idols. And instead of, being obedient to the Lord, they instead wanted to go and serve idols, wood and stone. And they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in their abominations. And they shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh, and that I have not said in vain that I would do this evil unto them. Now, when you read in the book of Baruch, here's an account of it, because in the book of Baruch, this was when, it's actually going to give you a recap of what happened. But Baruch was also at the time, he was a scribe for Jeremiah, but he was also there at the time when Jerusalem was destroyed and they were taken captive to Babylon. And he was there with them, right? Here it says, and these are the words of the book. This is Baruch chapter 1, which Baruch, the son of Neriah, the son of Maasaiah, the son of Zedekiah, the son of Asadiah, the son of Kelkiah, wrote in Babylon. So he was in Babylon. And what he wrote was, in the 5th year, and in the 7th day of the month, what time as the Chaldeans took Jerusalem and burnt it with fire. And the Chaldeans are the Babylonians. And Baruch did read the words of this book in the hearing of Jeconiah, which is that king, right, that we mentioned. Same king Ezekiel made mention of in Ezekiel the 1st chapter. He was taken captive to Babylon. The son of Joachim, which is Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and it's spelled slightly different because of the way it's translated in the Apocrypha. And in the ears of all the people that came to hear the book, and in the hearing of the nobles, and of the king's sons, and in the hearing of the elders, and of all the people from the lowest unto the highest, even of all them that dwelt at Babylon by the river Sud. So these were the Israelites that were in Babylon after Jerusalem was basically taken, and they came to hear this. Now remember, keep in mind what the Lord told Ezekiel, right? Whereupon they wept, fasted, and prayed before the Lord. They made also a collection of money according to every man's power, And they sent it to Jerusalem unto Joachim the high priest, the son of Kelkias, the son of Salom, and to the priests, and to all the people which were found with him at Jerusalem. Because remember, the Babylonians had left some people at Jerusalem. They didn't take everybody. At the same time, when he received the vessels of the house of the Lord that were carried out of the temple, to return them into the land of Judah, the 10th day of the month Sivan, namely silver vessels, which Zedekiah the son of Josiah, king of Judah, had made. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away Jeconiah and the princes, and the captives, and the mighty men, and the people of the land from Jerusalem, and brought them unto Babylon. And they said, Behold, we have sent you money to buy you burnt offerings and sin offerings. I'm going to jump down a bit just to get back into the context. Verse 13. Pray for us also unto the Lord our God, for we have sinned against the Lord our God. And unto this day the fury of the Lord and his wrath is not turned from us. And ye shall read this book which we have sent unto you, to make confession in the house of the Lord upon the feasts and solemn days. And ye shall say to the Lord our God, belongeth righteousness, but unto us confusion of faces, meaning being shamefaced, being ashamed. As it is come to pass this day unto them of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to our kings, and to our princes, and to our priests, and to our prophets, and to our fathers. For we have sinned before the Lord, and disobeyed him, and have not hearkened unto the voice of the Lord our God, to walk in the commandments that he gave us openly. Since the day that the Lord brought our forefathers out of the land of Egypt unto this present day, we have been disobedient unto the Lord our God, and we have been negligent in not hearing his voice. And his voice comes by way of the prophets. So what they're doing here is they're in the land of their captivity, right, in Babylon, and they're remembering, and they're in regret for the wickedness that they did and disobeying the Lord. Wherefore the evils cleaved unto us, and the curse which the Lord appointed by Moses his servant at the time that he brought our fathers out of the land of Egypt. And that's in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, the curses. To give us a land that floweth with milk and honey, like as it is to see this day. Nevertheless, we have not hearkened unto the voice of the Lord our God, according unto all the words of the prophets whom he sent unto us. But every man followed the imagination of his own wicked heart, to serve strange gods. See that? And to do evil in the sight of the Lord our God. So going back to Ezekiel 6, remember the Lord said in 6 and 9 that he was going to leave a remnant, right? And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations whither they shall be carried captives. So Habakkuk and those that we just read about there, they were a part of those that were carried captives into Babylon. And in that book, they were remembering the Lord, as well as let's keep reading. Because I am broken with their whorish heart, which hath departed from me, and with their eyes, which they go a-whoring after their idols. And they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. So that was an example that we just read in Baruch. Verse 10, and they shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh, and that I have not said in vain that I will do this evil unto them. So when I bring this upon them, it's going to happen. And they're going to realize that I wasn't making empty threats, right? That I have not said it in vain, that I was going to bring this evil upon them. Because you do something, I say something, I don't do it. You think that you just calling my bluff. No, the Lord is going to bring this to pass. Verse 11, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, smite with thine hand, and stamp with thy foot, and say, alas, for all the evil abominations of the house of Israel. For they shall fall by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. He that is afar off, or he that is far off, shall die of the pestilence, and he that is near shall fall by the sword, and he that remaineth and is besieged shall die by the famine. So thus will I accomplish my fury upon them. So the Lord says, this is what I'm getting ready to do to them. They're not going to escape. Whether you're far or close, or you're trapped actually in the siege, you're going to get this work. Either by the pestilence or being killed by the sword. You're going to get caught up by their troops and be slain. That happened to Zedekiah, or his sons at least. And he that remaineth in the siege shall die by the famine, because as we read in 2 Kings, I believe it's the 25th chapter as well, it talked about how the famine prevailed. And eventually people died because they were trapped in there and they didn't have any food. Verse 13, then shall ye know that I am Yahweh, when their slain men shall be among their idols round about their altars, upon every high hill, in all the tops of the mountains, and under every green tree, and under every thick oak, the place where they did offer sweet savor to all their idols. Right. So those under those green trees, those thick oaks, those groves, that's where they will go, and those are certain locations that they will go and serve these idols. And the Lord said, well, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to slay you. And you're going to be just, if somebody was to get a snapshot of what the place looked like after the Lord had sent the Babylonians, you would see dead bodies, you would see broken down idols, you would see certain trees that were cut down, you would see certain buildings that were burnt. Just like the Lord said. And you can imagine, right, when the Babylonians kicked through and they rampaging through, people are running. You running, they chasing you, they cut you from behind, you fall down, your blood is spilled, all of that. That's war. Ultimately, that's judgment. Verse 14, so will I stretch out my hand upon them and make the land desolate. Yea, more desolate than the wilderness toward Diblath, in all their habitations, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And you look up Diblath, I mean, they don't really have, they don't really have an exact location. It's similar to a lot of these other places, these names. They give you approximations of where it could possibly be in that land, but they don't give you exact details. But the point that's being made here is the Lord is saying, pretty much you can imagine that the wilderness, or that area towards the location of Diblath, must have been probably like one of those either desolate or desert-like areas that you would pretty much walk. So the Lord is just making a comparison there to emphasize how bad this judgment was going to be. All right, and this is pretty much the end of Ezekiel, the 6th chapter. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.